Okay, so for those of you just joining us, my name is Julie Burley. I'm the branch manager of the Lake Community Branch Library, part of the Stark Library System in Stark County, Ohio. I'd like to welcome you to our evening with mystery authors Linda Castillo and Amanda Flower. We are so excited that they agreed to meet with us tonight. We, back in February, I think, started planning this back before all the craziness hit. And there for a while, we thought it wasn't going to happen. We're really disappointed, but we are so glad for technology and the ability to do a virtual visit with them. I know that many of the people that are joining us tonight are already familiar with Linda and Amanda and some of their works. And as I was preparing myself for this evening, it struck me how much they have in common. So in case you didn't know, at some point in time, they have both called Ohio home. Linda when she was a child, and Amanda currently lives in Northeast Ohio. They both began their writing careers when they were very young, I believe in elementary school for both of them. They are probably best known for their Amish mystery books, but they have also written other genres and other types of mysteries. They both enjoy animals, and I know they have some of their own fur babies. Some are a little bigger than others. So maybe they'll tell us a little bit about those. Together, the two of them have written over 55 books over the span of their career, which is so impressive. Amanda was talking before we started about how many she wrote last year, so she'll have to share that with you. And many of their titles have appeared on best reading lists, such as the USA Today bestsellers list and things like that. And they both have had some pretty big life changes, either currently happening or in the works to happen. Linda is in the process of building a house and moving into that house, and Amanda is in the process of planning a wedding. So big, exciting stuff happening in both of their lives in addition to their writing careers. So my pleasure to introduce and welcome to the stage, the podium, authors Linda Castillo and Amanda Flower. Thanks so much for joining us, ladies. I will let you unmute your mics and go ahead and get started. Uh-oh.
Thank you, Julie. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're good.
Amanda?
Yeah, okay, good.
Okay. Oh, hi.
Hi.
Do you want to go first, Amanda?
You are the Ohio guest, so you can go first.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank Julie and everybody at the Stark County Library System for pulling all of this together under not the best of circumstances. I'm very happy to be here. Amanda, thank you for being here. We did Perry-Sippo and Lake Community last year, and it was absolutely a blast. Those are, a couple of my favorite stops every year. So just want to say thank you. And I also want to say thank you to everybody who, who sort of tuned in tonight hopefully we'll be able to pull this thing off without, too many, happenings going on. But anyway, I'm Linda Castillo, and I write the Kate Burkholder Amish thriller series. And usually I'm in Ohio about this time, on book tour. And unfortunately this year that wasn't able to happen. And but my latest book in the series, it's hard to believe we're already into the 12th book. It's titled Outsider, and it was released on July 7th. I don't know if you can see this, but it was a beautiful cover. And this is a little bit of a different book than some of the others in the series. Usually these books are, even though they're Amish set, they're not cozy. Usually they're a murder mystery. And I did an event the other night with the Poison Pen in Scottsdale, Arizona, and it was Barbara who pointed out, this is not a mystery, it's a thriller. And so this one is a little bit different. But I should start by telling, everybody that I am originally from Ohio. I live in Texas currently, but I grew up in the western part of the state. And it's always funny when I first sold this series, and I flew up to New York to meet my editor and my agent, everybody. And I told them that I was from Ithaca. They're like, oh, well, Ithaca, New York. And I'm always, no, Ithaca, Ohio, population 79. And so it was, that's kind of a neat moment. But I'm from, very small town in Ohio, the western part of the state, sort of the dark county. I lived in Preble County area with my parents for just a little while. And of course, most of the Ohio Amish are in the northeastern part of the state, Holmes County. I believe they're pretty much tied as far as Amish population with Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. I basically either Holmes County or Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Contain the largest Amish populations in the world, basically. But Outsider is the 12th book in the series. And one of the things that I loved about writing this book is that I've always, throughout the series, I've always received a lot of reader mail about Kate Burkholder. And Kate Burkholder is my protagonist. And she is the chief of police of a small town in Ohio, population 5,300. A third of that population are Amish. And they always want to know, Kate Burkholder left the Amish community. She left the fold as a teenager when she was 18 years old. And that information is actually revealed in the first book. And I don't want to give away too much, but something happened to Kate and she left the fold. And, I give a good bit of background information on Kate throughout the series, but one of the reoccurring questions that I always get from readers is, how did Kate go from wayward Amish girl to the chief of police in a small town? And we sort of get a glimpse with Outsider, we get a glimpse into how that happened after she left when she was 18 years old. As most of you know, the Amish community, most of the young people only attend school through the 8th grade. And so, that would put Kate at somewhat of a handicap when it comes to choosing a career, vocation of some sort. So those are some of the questions that I'm able to, that I answer in this book. And some of that is done actually through the use of flashbacks. And the book basically begins with an Amish gentleman who is out on a sleigh ride with his 3 children. He is Adam Langacher is a widower, and they're out in the sleigh, and there's a blizzard bearing down on Painters Mill, Ohio, and they come upon a wrecked truck, a pickup truck. And so, of course, Adam being Amish, he's going to help the driver, so he stops to render aid. And finds an injured woman who's been shot. She pulls a gun on him, and he sort of backs off. And this woman basically says, "Get Kate Burkholder." And so at that point, Adam, loads this injured woman into the sleigh, takes her to his Amish farm, a couple of miles away, and contacts Kate Burkholder. And it turns out that Gina Colarosa, the injured woman, is what early in Kate's life, they were good friends. They went through the police academy together, and they were roommates. They lived together. And all of this, Kate's information is revealed through the use of flashbacks. We sort of learn how Kate got into law enforcement and how it is that she landed in Painters Mill.
Wow. Personally, I can't wait to read it because those are questions as a reader I have as well, about Kate and that time between when she left the Amish before she came back to Painter's Mill, like that. I think the readers are going to really love that. And I just know from my own series too, like I think it gets to a certain point when a series is long that readers start to tell you like what they want to see,
Yeah.
to come, like what about this, or a secondary character that they really like, and they like, what's their backstory and things like that. So I think that's really great that you responded kind of like as an author to what the readers wanted. So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
I can tell you in the course of writing this book, I mean, I know Kate Burkholder. I know her well. I created her. And I have to tell you that there are some things that I learned about Kate Burkholder that I did not know when I started this book. That doesn't happen very often, it doesn't
Yeah.
happen very often to where your characters actually surprise you. But in this case it did. And it was it wasn't a bad surprise. It was a good surprise.
Yeah.
And I think I know her a lot better now than what I did when I started the book.
Yeah. And that'll just serve you as you go on to the rest of the series too, to,
I think so. And Amanda, even though you and I both basically write Amish mystery series, they're
Yeah.
sort of like night and day.
Yeah.
The Kate Burkholder series sort of edges over, and it's murder mystery and a little bit darker. Sometimes I'll edge over, as Barbara pointed out, more thriller territory.
Yeah.
And your books tend to be more cozy. And one of the things that, and just in reading some of the reviews, you make your readers happy, and you make them laugh. And I think that is a really good thing. And I think especially right now, I think that comfort and that, being able to laugh, I think it's a really, really good thing.
Yeah, thank you. I always think of, I don't know if we were at BoucherCon or another event, but I always think of that time they put us in order of like how scary our books were. And we were on an Amish mystery, I think it was BoucherCon Cleveland, and we were on an Amish mystery panel, and you were at one end, and they were like, they told me to leave the room because my books were, so light and funny. But yeah, so those of you that may not know me, I write cozy mysteries, a bunch of different kinds, but I am most well known for my Amish series, and they've just been a joy to write. I kind of ended up writing Amish when I was a young librarian. I was looking for a job, and the only offer I got was in Ohio's Amish country. It was actually in Knox County, which is right next to Holmes County. So there's a lot of Amish overflow into that county to get some more land for farming and whatnot. So I saw Amish all the time and interacted with them. And years later, I ended up wanting to pitch a new series to my agent, and I told her kind of off the cuff I used to live in Amish country, and she was like, oh, at the height of kind of the Amish fiction craze. And I'm so happy that at the time, honestly, I don't know if you felt this way, Linda, I was a little nervous about writing of the Amish because it's a religion, it's a lifestyle, it's a very new culture, and it was super important to me to be honest and accurate and kind to this really unique population. So like I'm sure both of us did like immense amount of research to make sure we got it right. It was very important.
That really was it. I knew very little about the Amish when I started writing this series. And so, yes, I did a lot of research. John Hochstetler, are you familiar with his book?
Yeah.
That is a fantastic book. And I have to tell you that, and of course you could do, a lot of research online. Some of the best things that I learned, I'm lucky enough to where I was able to travel to Ohio every summer for book tour with the release of the book. And I would always do my utmost to set aside a day I could spend with one of my librarian friends
Yeah.
she's her name's Denise, and she's sort of a social butterfly, and she knows a lot of the Amish in the area. And I was lucky enough to be able to sit down. Amanda, I'm sure you've probably done the same living in that area. I got to go to an Amish dairy farm and have dinner with an Amish family. Another Amish family invited me just for iced tea and cookies out on the deck.
Mhm.
And he knew that I was kind of a horse enthusiast.
Aw.
I asked him about his horse, and he asked me if I wanted to take ride in the buggy. And I said, I would love that. So we walk out there, and he does the whole harness thing, and I'm kind of looking at the hooves and, looking at the horse and all that. And I know that I have this entire time, I have a stupid grin on my face, like, I'm like a kid in a candy store. And so we went down the road, and he finally looks over at me and he goes, do you want to drive the buggy?
Oh my gosh.
I said, yes, I would absolutely love to. And it was such just a wonderful moment. And we see buggies when we're there, we see them all the time, but it is really different when I don't want to say behind the wheel, when you're behind the reins.
Horse. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I have horses, and I know my horses, and they're great horses. They're not spooky, but it drove home for me, some of the things that can happen, when you're out on the road. And I know there have been some bad accidents and stuff like that up there. But as a writer, that kind of research is just absolutely priceless. And I
I 100% agree. I have this policy, not just with my Amish books, but if I'm gonna write a novel or anything really, I have to go to the place. I have to absorb it. I have to smell it. I have to be in it. I have to hear what the people, even if it's like, what do they sound like? And many trips down to Holmes County for me. Probably for me, the most memorable one was the director, this was a few years ago, but the director of the Holmes County library system asked me, I gave a presentation at like a conference or something, and he came up to me afterwards and he's like, do you want to do a bookmobile ride along with the Amish schools? And I was like, yes. And at this time, I was also working as a full-time librarian, so I took like 2 vacation days. Like, it was 100% worth it, because I got to talk to the librarians on the bookmobile. Like, how do you service this population? As a librarian, I was also immensely interested in that. And then just seeing what the Amish chose to read, like, it also influenced, me, and just how much they use the library. Of course, like everything in Amish culture, it depends what your bishop permits and what your order allows, but a lot of them take really great advantage of the library because their culture is really built on, thrift and saving money and being responsible with materials. So, like, of course, borrowing a book on how to fix something, which was one of the most popular things, like those old time life thin books about how to fix, like a plumbing problem, like, but those were one of the most popular ones. And also books on, like, canning and stuff like that. But they also really enjoyed like sweet romances and, you know, things that like
Yeah.
that too. So that was just really interesting to see as both a librarian and things like that. And I did, you know, I did ask the librarians, like, do they ever read my books?
That was my question. I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, and they did, you know, and I've had other there's a Amish bookstore in Berlin, the Gospel
Mhm.
Bookstore, and it's and they have I believe at one of the flea markets they have like a little stand there too, and there's this really kind, a conservative Mennonite woman that's really been like kind of my Denise, like kind of helping
Oh,
me like
yeah.
connect and stuff like that. And she says like she always takes my book out there and um you know, and tells people like, you know, it's not scary, you know, and but she said at first she kind of had to convince some of the readers like that they would enjoy it. So that's kind of um you know, tickles me to know that there might be Amish out there reading it, and I'm reading someone.
Oh, yeah. Do they get a kick out of your books being set in that area or
Yeah, yeah,
comment?
yeah.
Do
I
you
think
use places that maybe some of the readers in that area might be familiar with?
yeah. So the all of the places in my books, other than so my series, I have two series that are Amish. I write for Kensington. One
Mhm.
is the Amish Candy Shop Mysteries. This is
Oh, yeah.
that's the new one, Marshmallow Malice. It came
Yeah.
out at the end of June.
Right.
Um, and and then there's a spin-off series, which is the Amish Matchmaker series. And they're all set in the same town of Harvest, Ohio, which I made up based kind of on Sugar Creek, which actually is not
Oh,
technically in
oh, yeah.
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 Um,
Through
but
there.
that
Yeah.
but all the other towns, like I talk about Berlin and Millersburg, the county seats, and Charm and all those places. And then I'm very, I describe them exactly how they are, because I think that's important. Because sometimes I will get, and you probably too, you'll get a message or an email from a reader and like, I was, you know, here and I know I thought about your book, and or I saw
Yeah.
this when I was on vacation and in Amish country somewhere. And so that's really neat. And I do like sprinkling like real places in there. But I think for you can speak to this too, as far as like the main town, it's a lot easier to create a new one and kind of have control of like what's there and like the businesses. And if I want to throw in like a cheese shop or something, it's not, you know,
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
come
The
through.
Butterhorn Bakery, if you have to have a covered bridge, because there's some, something going on at the covered bridge, you can,
Yeah,
you have the Tuscaroras Bridge.
yeah,
And so, yeah, you're absolutely correct about having that one, that a little bit of control. You can sort of build your town around your story and add things and add places that are necessary. And, through the course of a series, and you can probably speak to this as well, these towns, there are residents and there
yeah,
are business owners. And sometimes I think readers really get a kick out of being able to revisit sort of the recurring,
yeah.
business owners. Like, for example, one of the places that I have throughout the series is the Butterhorn Bakery.
Hmm.
And Tom Skanks runs the Butterhorn Bakery, and he's a little bit of a picky resident. And Kate Burkholder, but he does give the police department the free apple fritters, and they have the best apple fritters in all of Ohio. Those kinds of things I think
Yeah,
really make it fun for readers.
yeah, I definitely agree. Kind of spinning off what you were saying about um with your 12th book, kind of answering those questions about Kate's past and everything, something that I've got a lot from my readers. So Marshmallow Malice was I believe the 5th book, but there will be at least 9 as far as like contracts go. So what I get from readers is there's a pretzel shop right next to the candy shop. And I always have been hinting that something's off about the pretzel shop. And I've never like answered that question. I just keep kicking that can down. I'm like, I'll deal with that in another book, you know? And so finally I wrote the next book in the series that'll come out next winter is called Lemon Drop Dead. And it's about the pretzel shop and what is going on in the pretzel shop and why, you know, about those characters, because similar to you as like something that just keep coming up with correspondence with readers. And I was like, you know, I really need to address this.
Yeah.
Because they want it.
As a writer, you knew that there was something there, but maybe you weren't quite ready to explore what it was. So and it's finally going to be revealed. Now you also have 2 more books coming out next month.
Yeah.
Can you tell us just a little bit about those?
Yeah, so my 2 books that I have coming out next month, they're not Amish. So I'm pretty much writing Amish exclusively for Kensington. And then I write a couple other series for a couple other publishers, but the book coming out on August 11th is called Mums and Mayhem, and it's about a magic garden in Scotland. And as I was saying before, how I have to go to a place and feel and smell it and everything. When I got this contract for the very first book, I went to Scotland to Aberdeenshire, which is one of the shires there. And I stayed there for about 10 days just in that particular region of Scotland because I needed to absorb it, you know, especially if you're going overseas, you need to really like maximize your time. So it's the 3rd book, and in this one, a famous fiddler is strangled with his fiddle strings. I know, sounds pretty gruesome.
Brilliant.
Yeah, but it's still a cozy, and that's for Crooked Lane. And then I have a book coming out August 25th. It's my first book for Hallmark, which
I love that.
Hallmark, you know, have their movie channels, greeting cards, Empire forever. And in the last 12-14 months, they have started publishing books. They started off doing novelizations of their movies. And then what my book is, and a few other books have been before, is a Hallmark original novel that could be a movie. But we don't know. And also all production is shut down. So they're not making any movies. So I don't know if it'll actually come to fruition because there's a backlog of a bunch of things that they have in the, you know, that they need to record.
Right.
I'm still super excited, and it's kind of a departure for me because it's a private eye.
Love that.
Yeah. So it's my first. It's still cozy leaning, I would say, because it's for Hallmark, so it does have that tone to it.
Like an amateur sleuth kind of thing, or a real private detective.
So it's a real private detective. So that it's my first, like, I guess, you know, professional detective that doesn't, like, they get hired to solve things. So, and it's called Dead End Detective. So I'm pretty excited about that. And it's, you know, it's always fun to kind of have the Amish as like my stable ground, and then have opportunity to like kind of try some new things to keep my creativity fresh.
Right. Well, that sounds fantastic. You are so prolific. I have to say, I just admire you so much. I know,
Oh,
you know, it's just, I usually, currently writing one book a year in the Kate
Yeah.
Burkholder series. In fact, I'm working now. I have a book that's going to be the 13th book in the series that'll be out next, probably next July. I do have a title
Oh,
for it.
great. Oh,
And
perfect.
yeah, and I'm working right now. In fact, I had a great breakthrough today on the novel. I know exactly where I'm going. I'm probably about 2/3 of the way through the book, and I'm really, really excited about the book. So
Yeah, that's great. That's great when you have that moment
yeah,
of like, I know what's gonna happen.
yes, as opposed to beating your head against your desktop. Yes,
Yes,
it's always
yes,
interesting.
yes. And I know too with your series, you've had a few like novellas of Kate being when she was younger.
Yeah.
Are you doing any more of those or?
I actually do the novellas. They're pretty short, and I usually do one every spring. They usually release the novellas maybe toward the end of May,
Mhm.
and I either do one or two when Kate was a young woman, because readers do have questions about, it's so interesting to look at someone's past, a character that as an adult. It's interesting to see, how did they get there? How did they become the person that they are today? Or sometimes it's just a short mystery,
Yeah.
a little bit lighter in tone, but sometimes I can edge over into a little darkness, but usually it's just because they're so short. They're a little bit lighter in tone. And I did one, basically every spring, right before the book comes out in early to mid-July. So, yeah, Julie, are you there? Do we want to, are we doing okay on time? Do we want to go to questions?
Yeah, this would be a great time to kind of
Okay,
pause to
perfect.
take questions. So before we do that, I'm just going to say goodbye to everybody that joined us on Facebook Live. We did have
Hi,
some live
Facebookers.
viewers. So thank you for joining us, and we're going to close out the Facebook session and stop the recording, and then we'll do some questions. So let's get
Okay.
that going here.